it's Mary-Jeanine back in my little sewing studio at home this time. We got a lot of feedback on the face mask video from last week, and I thought I would show you some updates. I've been factory sewing this weekend and figuring out some really cool ideas along with lots of your great suggestions. So I thought I'd show you on my sewing machine some of the changes we've made to the masks. Let's go. Okay, here we are in my little factory. I've got tons of little pre-washed 9x6 pairs of rectangles here. I've got my rat tail. I just happen to have 100 yards of this stuff. So that's what I'm going to use right now because I know a lot of you are running out of elastic and they're asking for ties anyway. So I thought I'd start working with the ties instead. 16 inches of trim, and I put a knot at the end of each one. That's a great TV project. And then I've got that plastic garden twist tie product that we talked about before. I picked it up at Ace Hardware, like 60 yards for $3 or $4. I cut it about 3-4 inches long, and then I turned in the ends so they won't poke anybody in the face and maybe less likely to come out of the casing that we're about to make. So here we go. I'm going to take this twist tie and I'm going to put it halfway from the top and the bottom of the top of the mask, and I'm going to sew it about 1/4 inch from the edge of the top of the mask. So here we go. Get rid of this thread here. So I've got a zigzag stitch. I'm using black thread today just so you can see my stitching, but of course normally I would get this thread to match. When I made it a little too wide, here we go. Again, 1/4 inch from the edge. We're zigzagging and all the way to the end. I'm pulling in the back here. The most important thing is you don't want that needle to hit that wire, so you just got to be careful to get that in the very center. Okay, so there's that. All right, so here we go. It's time to put the trim in. I've put that knot in there on one of the ends of each rat tail. I'm going to slide the knot over. I'm going to move my needle all the way over to the right. Some of you may not realize, even though you have it's on straight stitch, you can hit the width of stitch width and move it all the way over, and your needle will move all the way over to the right. So that's what I've done here because I want to get this little basting stitch right close to the seam allowance. So forward, backward, forward, cut my thread, go to the next one, forward, backward, forward, cut my thread, go to the next one. Let's find some more rat tail here. Whoops. The trick is keeping all this trim out of the way as you sew because it wants to be part of the party. Forward, backward, forward. You really want to keep these pieces of trim in. You do not want somebody to tug tight and your trim to come out. That's why we're putting the knot in here, and that's why we're going over this 3 times. All right, so now we've got all 4 pieces attached to the edges. We've got our zip tie, and by the way, if you don't know why we're doing the little twist tie here, we're going to talk about that at the end, but basically it's to fit it over the nose. So now we're going to take our other piece of fabric, lay it right sides down so everything's right sides together, and now we're going to flip this entire thing over because I want to be able to see where I've sewn so I can stay away from those and make sure all that stays in the seam allowance. So since this is the top, that's where the nose is, I'm going to start sewing at the bottom, and again we're going to start here, we're going to go all the way around, and we're going to stop here. I no longer put 2 pins there. We talked about that in the first video because I've been assembly lining these and I find that I'm just going too fast. I know where to stop now, so I don't put a pin there. So I'm going to go into center straight stitch, and we're going to go forward and back. We're going to go all the way around. Again, we're going to the left of that line, and since I have I'm defaulted to needle down, I just run right off the piece and then put it right back on. That way I don't even have to waste time putting my needle up. Okay, here's the tricky part. I want to make sure I stay to the left of this zigzag where the twist tie is, because I want to be sure the twist tie is in the seam allowance, not in the outside of the mask. Tries to get held up there by the twist tie, because, and then off we go. You know, it's a little bit messy, but we are in fast sewing to the finest fast sewing here, so if it's a little messy, it's okay. Sometimes you have to hold on to those ties to make sure you can run over them properly. And then my final one, and again, I'm going to only go to here because I don't want to close up that turning hole. We'll back stitch. All right, we're going to take our scissors. You might remember from the last video, yes, we could just cut straight across, but I find it just, whoo, what happened there? We just remove a little more bulk by cutting two narrow triangles rather than one big triangle. All right, now we're going to flip this over and press it. So here's the opening. If you remember from last time, I'm taking my thumb and my forefinger, pinching that corner, and I'm able to push that corner out pretty darn well without a point turner. And again, that's just another time saver. If I don't have to pick up a tool, I can just use the fingers that God put on my hand. All right, here we go. Oh yay, I didn't run over any of those rat tails, those trim. And I forgot to say that if you were worried about that, you could actually corral them all in the center and put a pin there, so when you're sewing around, you wouldn't have to worry. All right, so I turned it around, I pressed it, we're on the down stretch here, and I'm gonna start at the bottom, I'm gonna go all the way around, and here's another time saver. I've been making so many of these, I no longer need to pin my 3 pleats, and I'll show you how I do that. So we're top stitching here, so it may not be the prettiest thing you ever saw, but it's keeping everything together. Okay, so we're going to build those pleats on the fly. This is a really good time to pay attention and not run over your finger or run through your finger. So there's one pleat. Build the next pleat. Sometimes you need an assist. And then build a third. It's a good time to use your thicker needles, maybe a size 90 or even a 100, to make sure that you can go through all those thick layers. Okay, we're going to pivot on the corner. Here's where I can feel my twist tie here. So I'm going to make sure, again, I stay away from it by sewing to the left. There's something else in there. I don't know what that is. Staying to the left of my twist tie. And again, if my pleats are going up on the left, I want to make sure they go up on the right. So build 1, and then we're going to build 2, and now we're going to build 3. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to match up with the other side perfectly. The point is you've got 3 pleats, and that's what counts. And Stefan, we are going to zoom out here because I'm going to put this one on. So I'm going to show you how it works. So here's that twist tie. I'm going to bend it a little bit so I can put it over my nose. And there's the first tie. And sure you get the idea. There's the second tie. And that twist tie is really helping get you a good fit. Okay, before I say goodbye, I want to show you, we talked in the comments a lot about putting a filter inside. We'll put a link to the Amazon heat furnace or the furnace air filters that are so fine that they keep viruses out. I don't have them yet, but when I get them, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create, there's my nose piece, so the bottom is going to have a hole in it. I didn't even top stitch the edges, but you could. I'm pretending this is a piece of interfacing. I cut it, instead of 6 by 9, I cut it 5 by 8, so it's 1 inch shorter on 2 sides. And that's just big enough where I can put that inside and push out the corners. And what I imagine the healthcare workers are going to do is they're going to use it like this, and then they will take, when they want to go to launder it, they'll take the filter out, launder the mask, and then either put that filter in or hopefully a new filter. Make lots of face masks. They sure need a lot of them. And Mary-Jeanine from the Sewing Studio. Love you guys. Bye.